"Who made this coffee?" he asked. When she came, the Mafia boss said, "You're mine now." The Sixima air was sharp with the smell of diesel and stale water from the gutters. Lena Carver pulled her thin coat tighter, the keys to Cafe Luna already in her hand, the cold metal biting into her palm. She was 24, but most mornings she felt closer to 40. The cafe was a narrow slice of a building sandwiched between a bail bondsman and a defunct pizzeria, a dead zone that just happened to be 3 blocks from the heavily curtained windows of the San Gennaro Social Club. Cafe Luna was failing. Its owner bought the cheapest, most bitter beans on the market, convinced that coffee was coffee. Lena knew better. She clocked in, the fluorescent light of the back room humming over her head, and immediately went to the industrial grinder. While her boss was busy with the books, Lena had been running an experiment for 6 months. She'd been skimming a few dollars from her meager tips each week to buy small bags of premium, single origin beans. She kept them hidden in an old flour tin beneath the sink. She measured, weighed, and blended them with the house swill, 70% of their garbage, 30% of her gold. It was the only way she could stand to serve it. This little ritual, this act of secret perfection, was the only part of her day she controlled. The morning rush was a blur of sleepy lawyers and tired construction workers. Lena moved like an automaton, her hands remembering the orders her mind was too tired to process. She was thinking about the stack of mail on her kitchen counter, the envelopes marked "Final Notice" in red ink, and the hacking cough that had kept her mother awake all night. Then, at 10:15, the bell over the door chimed. The cafe went quiet, not suddenly but in a rolling wave, as if a predator had just entered the room. Lena didn't look up, busy pulling a shot of espresso. 2 black coffees, 1 espresso, a low voice ordered, not at the counter, but from a booth. Maria, the other waitress, froze, her pot of drip coffee halfway to a cup. "Lena, you got that?" Lena sighed, wiping her hands on her apron. "Booth 4, she muttered, not turning. She finished the shot, the aroma rich and complex, her secret blend. She poured it into a clean demitasse, added the 2 drip coffees to a tray, and turned. He was sitting in the corner booth, the one with the cracked vinyl. He was not alone. 2 men sat with him, stiff-backed and wearing suits that cost more than her apartment's rent. But the man in the middle, the one studying the laminated menu with a look of mild disgust, commanded the space. He was broad, immaculate in a charcoal wool suit, and possessed a stillness that was unnatural. He looked up as she approached, and Lena felt the gaze land like a physical weight. His eyes were dark, not black, but a deep, unreadable brown. She set the tray down. 2 black coffee, 1 espresso. His eyes never left hers as he reached for the small cup. He lifted it to his lips, took a slow sip, and stopped. He did not just stop drinking, he stopped moving. His companion, who had been speaking in a low murmur, trailed off. The man. Dominic Moretti. Though Lena did not know his name, held the cup suspended in the air. He turned his gaze from Lena to the espresso, studying the rich, reddish-brown crema as if it held a secret. He took another sip, slower. "Santo," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Boss?" the man beside him answered. "Who made this coffee?" The question hung in the dusty air. Maria pointed a trembling finger toward Lena. Lena's stomach turned to ice. Was it wrong? Did he hate it? Was she about to be fired for wasting his time? "You," he said. It wasn't a question. Lena nodded, her throat tight. Is there something wrong with it?" Dominic Moretti looked at her. He truly saw her. He saw the exhaustion under her eyes, the chipped polish on her nails, and the way her chin stayed up even when she was clearly terrified. He pushed the cup toward his man. "Santo, taste that." Santo, a block of granite with a broken nose, dutifully took a sip. He looked surprised. "It's good, boss." "It's not good," Dom corrected, his eyes locking back on Lena. "It's perfect." He leaned back in the booth, the leather groaning in protest. A slow, unsettling smile touched the corner of his mouth, though it never reached his eyes. "What's your name?" Lena Carver." Well, Lena Carver, he said, the sound of her name in his mouth feeling possessive. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a thick money clip, and dropped $100 bill onto her tray. You're mine now. His men chuckled. A low, guttural sound. Lena forced a stiff smile, her face burning. She scooped up the 100, intending to give it back, but he was already standing, shrugging into his overcoat. We're leaving, he announced, and the three of them were gone, the bell chiming their exit. Lena stood there, her hand crushing the bill. She told herself it was a joke, a line. The kind of thing an arrogant rich man says to a waitress. She brushed it off, slid the 100 into her apron, and tried to ignore the fact that her hands were shaking. She was wrong. It was not a joke. The next day, a black sedan was parked across the street from the cafe. It was there when she arrived at 6, and it was there when she left at 2. The day after that, 2 of Dom's men, not Santo, but others she recognized from his orbit, came in and sat at the counter. They ordered black coffee, said nothing, and watched her. They watched her wipe tables. They watched her pull espresso. They watched her talk to Maria. They tipped $20 on a $4 bill and left. It happened every day for a week. The watchers. Lena lived in a state of high, thrumming anxiety. She was used to fear, but this was different. This was not the chaotic, explosive fear of her past. This was a cold, patient, suffocating pressure. Her life was a fragile house of cards, and this new attention was a heavy wind. She left the cafe every day and took the number 12 bus to a rundown 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that was trying and failing to gentrify. She walked in that evening to the smell of Vicks VapoRub and boiled chicken. Lena, honey, that you? Her mother, Sarah, was propped up in a worn-out recliner, a heavy Afghan pooled around her waist. Her lungs, scarred from a pneumonia that had almost taken her 2 years ago, were weak. The pile of bills on the table next to her, inhalers, oxygen tank rentals, specialist co-pays, was high. "Hey, Mama," Lena said, forcing a brightness into her voice as she kissed her mother's paper-thin cheek. "How was your breathing today?" "Better, baby, better." It was the same lie they shared every day. "There's soup on the stove." Lena nodded, exhaustion pulling at her. She went to her small bedroom and locked the door. She sat on the edge of her bed and pulled her phone from her pocket. 3 missed calls, 1 new text, all from the same number. "I know you got off work. Lena, why you not answering?" The text was from Travis, her ex-boyfriend, the man who had broken 2 of her ribs and her will to paint. All in the same night, the man who had just finished an 18-month sentence for assault and was now, somehow, free. She dropped the phone on the bed as if it were on fire. He was out. He was here. And he was watching, too. She was trapped between the man who thought he might own her future and the man who refused to let go of her past. The next Tuesday, he came back. This time, Dominic Moretti came alone. It was 1 in the afternoon. The lunch rush was over. Lena was wiping down the sticky tables. The bell chimed, and she turned, her cloth still in hand. He stood by the door, his overcoat off, wearing another perfectly tailored suit, this one a deep navy blue. He looked entirely out of place in the shabby cafe. He scanned the room, found her, and took the corner booth, her section. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She walked over, her notepad a useless shield. "Just coffee," he said. "The one you make." She nodded, her silence absolute. She went behind the counter, her hands shaking so badly she nearly spilled the beans. She prepared the espresso, her movements deliberate, trying to focus on the craft, on the one thing she did perfectly. She brought it to him. He watched her. He didn't speak, just watched as she refilled the salt shakers on the neighboring table. As she restocked the napkins, his gaze was a physical touch, burning the back of her neck. When she finally worked up the courage to bring him the check, he was ready. He hadn't touched the bill. Instead, sitting on top of it was a fan of crisp bills. Lena stopped. It was not a 20. It was not 100. It was 5 $100 bills. $500. A cold, hard fury, hotter than any fear, washed over her. She knew this transaction. This was Travis, all over again. The expensive dinner right before he hit her. The gift of a new coat right before he told her she was too stupid to go to art class. The purchasing of silence. The price of ownership. "I can't take this," she said. Her voice was low, but it didn't tremble. Dom looked up, his expression unreadable. "It's a tip. It's not. I don't know what it is, but I can't take it." She pushed the money back toward him with the edge of her check holder. A flicker of something, surprise, annoyance, crossed his face. He was a man who was never refused. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "You're working 2 jobs, your mother's sick, and your rent is 3 weeks late. Take the money, Lena." Ice shot through her veins. He knew. The watchers weren't just watching. They were investigating. "How do you know that?" she whispered, horrified. "I know everything about what's mine," he said simply, as if discussing the weather. "I am not yours." The words were out before she could stop them. They hung in the air between them, sharp and dangerous. Dom's eyes hardened. He looked at her for a long, heavy minute. Then, he did the last thing she expected. He smiled, a genuine, almost admiring smile. "No," he said, the smile fading. "You're not." He stood, leaving the $500 on the table. "But you're also not safe." He walked out. Lena, shaking with a cocktail of adrenaline and terror, grabbed the money. She ran to the door and threw it into the street just as his sedan pulled away. The wind took the bills, scattering them like autumn leaves down the dirty sidewalk. She worked the rest of her shift, then took the bus to her second job, a mind-numbing 6-hour stint stocking shelves at a 24-hour pharmacy. By the time she was done, it was past midnight. She was too tired, too defeated, to wait for the late bus. The walk was 23 blocks. She pulled her hood up and started walking, her keys laced between her fingers. She made it 12 blocks before she heard it, the footsteps, heavy, fast and sloppy. She didn't have to look. She knew. "Lena!" A voice slurred behind her. "Lena, baby, wait up!" She walked faster, her heart leaping into her throat. "Don't you walk away from me!" Travis grabbed her arm, spinning her around. He was thinner than she remembered. His face gaunt, his eyes wild and bloodshot. The smell of cheap whiskey rolled off him. "Look at you!" he hissed, his grip tightening on her bicep. "Too good to talk to me now? Working in that fancy place, I saw you with him." "Let go of me, Travis," she said, trying to pull away. "Who is he, huh? That guy in the suit? You think he wants you?" He shoved her hard against a chain-link fence, the metal rattling. "You're mine, Lena. You always been mine." He raised his hand, his palm open, and in that split second, Lena saw the next 2 minutes, the next 10 years, of her life. A car door slammed. Travis paused, his hand still in the air. 2 men stepped out of the shadows. They were the men from the sedan. Santo, the granite block, and the other, leaner, sharper. They didn't run. They just moved, their presence sucking the air out of the street. Travis, for all his bluster, was a coward. He recognized predators when he saw them. He let go of Lena, taking a step back. "This ain't your business," Travis stammered, holding up his hands. Santo didn't even look at him. He looked at Lena, who was pressed against the fence, trying to breathe. "You all right, miss?" Lena couldn't speak. She just nodded. Santo turned his massive head toward Travis. "The boss said we're not to touch you," he said, his voice like gravel. "He said you get 1 warning. This is it. If you look at her again, if you say her name, if you even think about her, I will break every bone in your body, starting with your feet." The lean man just smiled. It was the scariest thing Lena had ever seen. Travis, pale and shaking, turned and ran, stumbling over his own feet as he disappeared into the darkness. Lena slid down the fence, her legs giving out. Santo pulled out a phone and made a call. "Boss, it was the Travis Miller. Yeah, he just got out. We handled it. Yeah, she's shook, but she's okay." He listened for a moment. "Yes, sir. Right away." He hung up and looked at Lena. He wants to know everything. That night, in a penthouse overlooking the city, Dominic Moretti read the file on his desk. Travis Miller, a long sheet of assault, aggravated menacing, parole violations, and Lena Carver, $30,000 in medical debt, $800 in back rent, a protection order she'd let expire. He closed the folder. He hated men who hurt women. He looked at the file, then at the city lights, a cold, protective fury settling in his chest. The next morning, Lena woke up, bruised and sore from the fence. Her mother was still asleep. She went to get the mail, her hand still unsteady. She almost missed it, slipped under her apartment door, not from the hallway, but from inside the building, was a plain white envelope. Her name wasn't on it. She picked it up. It was thick. Inside, there was no card, no letter, just cash. Stacks of hundreds, bound with a simple paper band. She counted it, her blood running cold. It was $10,000. Beneath the money was a small, folded piece of paper. She opened it. 4 words, written in neat, block capitals. You deserve peace. Lena sank to the floor, the money in her lap. She wasn't confused anymore. She was terrified. This was not a flirtation. This was not a tip. This was a claim. The Watchers. The money. The man named Dom? He hadn't just scared Travis off. He had bought her debt, invaded her home, and signed his name to her life. She wasn't being protected. She was being possessed. The $10,000 sat on her kitchen table, a poisonous stack of paper that felt heavier than lead. Lena hadn't slept. She had stared at the money, then at her mother's closed door, then at the flimsy lock on her own. At 4 a.m, she'd made a decision. She'd tucked the money back into the white envelope, slid it into her bag, and waited for the sun to come up. She didn't just walk to the Cafe Luna. She marched. The fear from the night before had burned away, leaving a clean, cold rage. She was not for sale. Her peace was not something he could purchase and have delivered like a package. She slammed the cafe door open, the bell clanging wildly. It was 7 a.m. Her boss, Mr. Henderson, was in the back. Maria was wiping the counter, and she flinched at the sound. "Lena, you okay?" Lena's eyes scanned the room, looking for the Watchers, the dark suits. The cafe was empty. She felt a prickle of anticlimax. She had wound herself up for a confrontation, and he wasn't even here. She was an hour into her shift, her hands trembling so badly she'd already broken a cup. When the bell chimed, he came in alone. Dominic Moretti wore a dark gray suit, no tie, the top button of his crisp white shirt undone. He looked as if he had just stepped out of a boardroom, not a world of shadows. He didn't look at Maria, who suddenly found the floor fascinating. He looked only at Lena. He took the corner booth, his booth. Lena untied her apron, threw it on the counter, and walked over. She slapped the thick white envelope onto the table in front of him. It landed with a heavy, definitive thud. "I am not yours," she said, her voice low and shaking with fury. "I am not a stray dog you can just feed. I am not a problem you can solve with your money." Dom looked at the envelope. He didn't look surprised, and he didn't look at all. He slowly, deliberately, slid it to the side. He did not open it. "That," he said, his voice a quiet rumble, "was for your mother's medical bills. It was for the rent you owe. It was so you could buy a new lock for your door." "How do you know that?" she hissed, leaning closer, all pretense of customer service gone. "You had me followed. You had my life investigated. You sent your men to my street. You think that's okay? You think that makes you a good person?" "I don't think I'm a good person." "Lena." His eyes were dark and serious. He leaned forward, matching her intensity, and the faint, clean scent of expensive soap and wool crossed the table. "I think I'm a man who understands what happens when animals like Travis Miller are left off their leash. I know what they do to women who are alone and in debt." "So what? You're my new owner? You're the bigger dog in the yard?" The corner of his mouth twitched. "I sent the money because I wanted to. I expect nothing back. People like you always expect something back." She shot at him, her past with Travis a raw, open wound. "You buy and you own. You give and you control. I'd rather starve. I'd rather be evicted. Take it back." He held her gaze for a long, heavy silence. The entire cafe seemed to be holding its breath. He was looking at her, really looking, as if he were trying to solve a puzzle. He saw the proud, terrified set of her jaw, the purple smudges of sleeplessness under her eyes, and the sheer, unadulterated fire in them. "No," he said softly. What? I won't take it back. It's yours. Burn it, give it to your mother, or throw it in the river. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm not taking it. He slid his hand into his pocket and pulled out his money clip, dropping a $20 bill on the table. For the coffee you're about to make me. She stared at him, speechless. He had checkmated her. He had refused her refusal. She was left standing there, holding all her righteous anger, and he was calmly ordering an espresso. She was so furious, so utterly, incandescently enraged. She wanted to scream. Instead, she snatched the 20, went behind the counter, made his espresso with violent, jerky movements, and slammed it down in front of him, splashing the dark liquid onto the saucer. And he didn't flinch. He just picked up the small cup and drank. He was still there an hour later. He sat in the booth, drinking coffee after coffee, making quiet calls on his phone, and watching her. Every time she looked up, his eyes were on her. When her shift ended at 2, she ripped off her apron and headed for the door, fully intending to take the bus and wait an extra hour just to avoid him. She pushed the door open and stopped. His car, a gleaming black Mercedes that was the single most expensive object on the entire block, was parked at the curb. He was standing by the passenger door, holding it open for her. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice flat with exhaustion. "You're not safe on the bus. You're not safe walking home. I'm driving you." "No, thank you." She started to walk past him. "Lena." His voice stopped her. It was not a command. It was a request, and that, more than anything, cut through her anger. "Last night, he put his hands on you. My men stopped him. What happens tomorrow? What about the next day? I know you hate me right now. That's fine. But let me get you home, just this once, so we can talk, in a place that isn't this." He gestured to the grimy street. She looked at his car, a steel and glass fortress. She looked at the bus stop, 100 yards away. She thought of Travis's wild eyes, his whiskey-sour breath. She was so tired of being strong, so tired of being afraid. She didn't trust him, but she was starting to believe he was telling the truth, at least about Travis. "Just once," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "And you take your money with you." She shoved the envelope into his chest. He took it without argument and opened the door for her. The car was silent. The leather seats were so soft they felt like they were molding to her. The engine was a distant, powerful hum. It was a different world. "Where did you get that?" he asked, his voice quiet as he navigated the downtown traffic. "What?" "The recipe for the coffee." Lena was so surprised by the question. She answered honestly. "I made it. Your blend. The one you buy. It's terrible. It's all Robusta. Burnt. I've been supplementing it." He glanced at her, a look of genuine curiosity on his face. "Supplementing it? With what?" "Single origin, a little Sumatran for the body, a touch of Ethiopian Yirgacheffe for the bright notes. I buy it myself, from my tips." He was quiet for a long moment. "You spend your own money. To fix my coffee." He said it like a revelation. "I can't serve bad coffee," and she mumbled, embarrassed. He nodded, a small, private smile on his face. "No, I suppose you can't." They drove in silence for a few more blocks, the chasm of their different lives widening between them. "Why me?" she finally asked, looking out the window. "You have all this. All this. Why do you care about me? A waitress." He was quiet for so long. She thought he wouldn't answer. "I had a sister," he said. His voice was flat, all the warmth gone. "Angelina. She was bright, like you, full of fire, always laughing." He took a left turn, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "She met a man, a piece of garbage, like your Travis. He started small, a push, a slap, then a broken arm. She kept going back, said he loved her, said he was sorry. My father, he was old school. He said it was family business, not ours, that she'd made her bed." He stopped at a red light, but he wasn't seeing the street. He was seeing something from a long time ago. He put her in the hospital 4 times, the 5th time. She didn't come home. A blood clot in her brain from where he'd hit her head against the wall. She was 22. He turned to look at her. his eyes black with a pain so old and deep it was part of his bones. I hate men who hurt women. Lena, I hate them, and I will not stand by and watch it happen again. Not when I can stop it. The light turned green. Lena was breathless. She had expected 100 different answers, a line about her being pretty, an arrogant statement about him taking what he wanted. She had not expected this. This piece of his broken past offered to her like a fragile, dangerous gift. She saw the vulnerability he'd hidden so well. Beneath the power, beneath the control, was a man still grieving, still raging against a ghost. When they pulled up to her apartment building, the spell was broken. The street was littered with trash, and 2 kids were spray painting a wall. "This is it," she said. Dom got out of the car and walked her to the front door of the building. He looked at the main lock, which was busted. He looked at the cracked linoleum in the hall. He followed her up the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment. 3B. She put her key in the lock and pushed. The door jamb was splintered, the deadbolt hanging half out of the wood. Travis had kicked it in once, 6 months before he went to jail. She'd never had the money to properly fix it. Dom put his hand on the door, stopping her from opening it. He touched the splintered wood with his thumb, his face hardening into a mask of cold fury. "This is your lock?" he asked. "It works, mostly," she said, defensive. "He could open this with a credit card. A stiff breeze could open this." He pushed the door open, his gaze sweeping the tiny, clean but worn living room. "It's all I have," she said, her anger returning. "Thank you for the ride. You can go now." He ignored her. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Santo, I'm at the girl's apartment. Bring the kit. And steel reinforcements, a new jamb, 3-inch screws, and a high-security deadbolt. Now." He hung up. "What are you doing?" Lena said, panicked. You can't just do that. I'm a renter." "I am replacing your lock," he said, in a tone that brooked no argument. "You can send the bill to your landlord. I can't let you do this." "You're not letting me," he said, stepping into her hallway. He was too big for the narrow space. He was too big for her life. "I am doing it. Go sit with your mother." He was overriding her, steamrolling her, and she hated him for it. But she also felt a sliver of something she hadn't felt in years, a tiny, foreign feeling of being safe. She went to her mother's room. "Mama, I'm home. I have a friend. Here." "A friend?" Her mother, Sarah, called out, her voice hopeful. Before Lena could answer, Santo and another man were at the door, carrying a heavy-duty tool case and a long piece of solid steel. For the next hour, her apartment was filled with the sounds of drilling, sawing, and hammering. Dom directed them, his voice low and authoritative. When it was done, her cheap, flimsy door was an impenetrable fortress, a new, solid steel frame, a gleaming brass deadbolt, and a handle that felt heavy and secure. Santo and the other man cleaned up every speck of dust, packed their tools, and left. Dom stood by the door, testing the lock. It closed with a heavy, satisfying thunk. He turned to her. They were alone in the hallway, the space between them suddenly crackling with tension. "Thank you," she said, her voice small. She hated that he had been right. "You're welcome," he said. He didn't move to leave. He just watched her. He lifted his hand, slow, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. She was frozen, caught in the intensity of his gaze. He rested his fingers lightly against her cheek. His skin was warm, his touch impossibly gentle for a man who commanded such violence. His thumb brushed just below her eye, where the shadows of exhaustion lived. Lena's breath caught in her throat. It was the most intimate touch she'd ever known. Her entire body was thrumming, a live wire of fear and a new, terrifying desire. She wanted to lean into that warmth. She wanted to run screaming. He saw the conflict in her eyes. He saw the tremble that ran through her. He pulled his hand back, though it looked like it cost him something to do it. "When you're ready, Lena," he whispered, his voice rough. "When you want me. I'll be waiting. I won't be him. I won't ever be him." And he left. She locked the new deadbolt behind him. the sound of it echoing in the quiet apartment for the next week. Lena found herself breathing. She paid her mother's medical bills with the money. She paid the back rent. She kept $2,000 for groceries and threw the rest of the cash into a savings account, hating that it was his, but knowing she couldn't give it back. She thought about him. She thought about his words. She thought about his hand on her cheek. "You've been smiling a lot lately," her mother said one evening, over a game of gin rummy. "Is it that nice man who fixed the door?" "He's not a nice man, Mama," Lena said, her face flushing. "And I'm not smiling." "Could have fooled me," Sarah said, laying down her cards. "You're humming." "You only hum when you're painting, or when you're happy." Lena denied it, but her mother was right. She was lighter. The piece lasted for 8 days. On the 9th day, her phone buzzed. A new number. "You think you're safe now? You think he can protect you?" "He can't. You're still mine." The blood drained from her face. "Travis, he's a joke. I'm coming for you, Lena, when he's not looking. Soon?" She didn't tell Dom. She couldn't. It would prove him right. It would mean she needed him. And she wasn't ready to admit that. She blocked the number and tried to forget. But Dom already knew. His men were not just watching. They were listening. They had flagged Travis's new burner phone the second it had pinged a tower near her apartment. Dom set a trap. He knew Travis was desperate for cash. He had one of his low-level men, a man Travis wouldn't recognize, put the word out in a local dive bar that he was looking to buy. Information about Dominic Moretti. Travis, stupid and arrogant, took the bait. He agreed to meet at a neutral, public place, a 24-hour diner in the warehouse district. Lena, meanwhile, was falling apart. The texts hadn't stopped. They just came from new numbers. She was jumpy, sick, not sleeping. She got a text from Travis. "Meet me. The old diner, midnight, come alone, or I send your new boyfriend a picture of what I did to your face last time. I'll leave you alone forever. I swear." It was a lie. But it was a lie she wanted to believe. She could end this. Just talk to him. Make him understand. She took a cab to the diner, her heart pounding. She walked in, the bell over the door jingling. The place was empty. Except for one booth in the back. Travis was sitting there, his face pale, his hands shaking, and sitting across from him, calmly sipping a cup of coffee, was Santo. Lena stopped. "See?" Santo said to Travis, not even looking at Lena. "Told you she'd come?" Travis looked up, and his eyes were wide with animal terror. The door opened behind Lena. She turned. Dominic Moretti stood there, his face carved from ice. He was not angry. He was not furious. He was disappointed. "Lena," he said, and his voice was cold. "You shouldn't be here." "What is this?" she whispered, looking from Dom to Santo to Travis. "What did you do?" "I was handling it," Dom said, his voice tight. "Handling it? This is handling it. You set a trap. You used me. You used him. You—" She was suffocating. He was no different. He pulled strings. He manipulated. He controlled. He was just a cleaner. Richer, more powerful version of Travis. "You're just like him," she yelled, the words echoing in the empty diner. "You follow me. You trap me. You make my choices for me. You think you own me. Get away from me. All of you." She ran out of the diner, tears of pure, hot rage streaming down her face. Dom watched her go, his jaw tight. "Boss?" Santo asked, standing. "Want me to get her?" "No," Dom said, his voice hard. He walked out after her, catching her arm on the sidewalk under a flickering streetlight. She tried to pull away, but he held her fast. "Let me go," she sobbed. "Lena, stop." He didn't yell. He just spoke, and his voice cut through her panic. "Look at me." She finally stopped struggling, her chest heaving. "You are right," he said, and the admission stunned her. "You are right to be angry. I should not have done it this way. But he was texting you. He was threatening you, and you didn't tell me. I did it to protect you, not to control you. There is a difference." "It doesn't feel different," she cried. He let out a long, heavy breath, and for the first time, he looked tired. He let go of her arm. He backed off, giving her space. He stood there, a powerful man under a weak, Yellow light, looking utterly lost. "You don't have to love me, Lena," he said, his voice raw. "You don't even have to like me. But I won't let him touch you. I will not let that happen." He turned and walked back into the diner, where Santo was now dragging a terrified Travis Miller out of the booth by his jacket. The door swung shut, leaving Lena alone in the dark. The 3 days that followed the incident at the diner were the quietest Lena had ever known. They were also the loudest. Travis was gone. His texts had stopped. The men in the black sedans were also gone. The oppressive, watchful silence was a new kind of fear. Dominic Moretti had kept his word. He had promised Travis would not touch her, and Travis was gone. Lena did not know what handling it meant. She did not know if Travis was in a hospital, a jail, or at the bottom of the river. She only knew that the absence of one monster had been orchestrated by another. Or was he? She found herself arguing with a ghost in her head. He had told her about his sister. He had fixed her lock. He had stopped when she'd cried out, when she'd accused him. He had backed away. Travis would have hit her. This man had simply given her space. On the 4th morning, Lena woke up, and she knew she could not live in the quiet. She could not work at Café Luna, a place that now felt like a glass cage he had built around her. She could not live in an apartment secured by his hardware, her mother's life extended by his money, his peace, his safety, his terms. She was tired of living in fear, but she was more tired of living in his debt. She showered, dressed in her plainest clothes, and took the bus, not to the cafe, but to the San Gennaro Social Club. Her legs were shaking so hard she almost fell on the steps. The windows were opaque. She pushed the heavy oak door open. The room went instantly silent. A cloud of cigar smoke hung in the air. 6 men, all of them in suits or expensive-looking sweaters, stopped their card game. They stared at her. A young woman, in a worn-out coat, standing in the doorway of their kingdom. I'm here to see Dominic Moretti," she said, her voice sounding thin and reedy. One of the men laughed. "He's not in... Sweetheart, try them all." "No," a heavy voice said from the back. Santo rose from a shadowy booth, his massive frame unfolding. He looked surprised, but not angry. He walked over to her. "Miss Carver, this is not a place for you." "Is he here?" she asked, her chin coming up. Santo studied her. He saw the same fire he'd seen at the diner, the same stubborn terror. He sighed. "He's upstairs. Wait here." He disappeared up a narrow, carpeted staircase. Lena was left to stand by the door, feeling the eyes of the other men on her like insects. A minute later, Santo reappeared. "He'll see you." The office upstairs was a shock. Unlike the dark, old-world club below, this room was modern, all steel and glass, with a single massive desk overlooking the street. Dom was not sitting behind it. He was standing by the window, a phone to his ear, his back to her. "No," he said into the phone, "you tell him the price is the price. If he doesn't like it, he can buy his cement elsewhere." He hung up and turned around. He was surprised, genuinely, completely surprised. He quickly masked it, his face settling into that unreadable stillness. But she had seen it. And beneath the surprise, just for a second, she saw he was pleased. "Lena," he said. He did not ask what she was doing here. He just waited. "I need to talk to you," she said, clutching the strap of her purse. He nodded, gesturing to one of the leather chairs opposite his desk. "I can see that." She did not sit. "What did you do to him, to Travis?" He did not pretend to misunderstand. "He won't bother you again." "Is he dead?" she whispered. Dom's eyes held hers. "No, he's not dead, but he understands the terms of his existence now. He was given a choice. He can live a long, healthy life, as long as it's not in this city, or he can come back, and he won't." Lena let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Not dead. He had not made her a reason for a murder. "Okay," she said. "Okay," he repeated, a small crease appearing between his brows. "I'm scared of you," she said, the words rushing out. "I'm scared of what you do, of these men, of this life. But Travis is gone. My mother's medical debt is paid. My door is solid. I'm safer than I've ever been, and I hate it. Because it's not my life. It's the one you gave me. He was quiet, just watching her, his hands resting on the back of his desk. I'm tired of being scared, she said, her voice gaining strength. I'm tired of living in fear, but I can't work at the Luna anymore. I can't be that girl, in that cafe waiting for you to come in or for someone else to come in. She took a deep breath. And I can't keep your money. I told you, the money. I know, but I will pay it back. All of it. The 10,000, the lock, everything. But I need a new job, a real one, and I need you to leave me alone, to call off your men, to let me be. She had said it. It was all out there. She stood, trembling, waiting for the explosion or the cold dismissal. Dom looked at her for a long, heavy minute. He walked around his desk, but he didn't sit. He perched on the edge of it, closer to her, but not looming. I can't do that, he said softly. Her heart sank. Oh, I can't leave you alone, he clarified. Because they already know. The men I fight, the scum. They know I've been to that cafe. They know I've been seen with you. If I walk away, if I call off my men. You're not free. You're a target. You're a way to get to me. That's the one thing I've done that I can't take back. I've put a target on you, just by wanting that coffee. Lena felt sick. He wasn't controlling her. He was protecting her. So what am I? She whispered. A prisoner? No, he said, his voice firm. You're a complication. He ran a hand through his hair, looking tired. But you're right. You can't stay at the Luna. It's not secure. And Henderson, he's been skimming from me for months. That place is a front, and not a very good one. He looked at her, an idea forming. I have another place, Cafe Doro, uptown. It's clean, all marble and brass, bright lights, it's legitimate. My mother's name is on the deed. The people who work there are just people. The pay is double what Henderson gave you. The security is perfect. He pushed off the desk and walked toward her. I want you to run the morning shift, not just serve coffee. Lena, run it, order the beans, create the menu, fix. Whatever is wrong, I saw what you did with my swill. I want to see what you can do with a real budget. He stopped a few feet from her. No strings. I mean it. It's a job. You show up, you're brilliant, you get paid. You can start paying me back, if your pride demands it, and you will be safe. She stared at him. Was this just a nicer, prettier cage, or was it an opportunity, a chance to do the one thing she was good at, to be the person she was before Travis, before the debt? You'll be my boss, she said, tasting the word. I'm already your boss. Lena, I own the building your cafe is in. He said it without malice, a simple statement of fact. This would be different. This would be you, working with me. Not for me. Your name on the schedule, your recipes in the system. She hesitated. She thought of her mother, of the way her own hands felt when they were measuring and tamping, the small joy of a perfect cup. Okay, she said. I'll take the job. A slow, real smile spread across his face, and it transformed him. The darkness receded, and for a second, he was just a man. Good, he said. You start tomorrow. Santo will have your paperwork. He walked her to the door. One more thing. She tensed. Tonight, he said. Have dinner with me. She recoiled. No. You said no strings. It's not a string, he said, his voice patient. It's a dinner, a celebration of your new job. We'll talk, not about this. He gestured to the office. Not about traps or ex-boyfriends, about coffee, about art, about anything you want. Just dinner, Lena, a conversation, on neutral ground. She looked at him, at this complex, dangerous man who spoke of his sister's death and fixed locks and offered her a new life. Okay, she said, just dinner. I'll have a car take you home so you can change. 8 o'clock. No, she said, surprising herself. I'll meet you. Send me the address. I'll get there myself. He looked impressed. "All right, Ristorante Il Corvo, 8 o'clock." Lena went home. She looked at the money in the savings account. His money. She took out $300. She went to a small boutique downtown, one she'd always walked past, and she bought a dress. It was a simple silk-wrap dress, the color of deep, rich wine. It was not a dress for a waitress. It was an armor. It was her choice. She was 10 minutes late to Il Corvo. She did it on purpose. The restaurant was a sea of dark wood, white tablecloths and candles. It was quiet, expensive, and intimidating. He was in a private booth in the back, and he stood when he saw her. He was in a dark suit, no tie. He looked, for lack of a better word, spectacular, but his eyes were on her. He took in the dress, the way her hair was down, the way she walked toward him, not in fear, but with a wary, defiant grace. "Lena," he said, his voice rough, "you look—" "I'm here," she said, sliding into the booth. The dinner was easy. It was the most terrifying and easy thing she had ever done. He did not talk about his business. He kept his promise. He asked her about her dreams. "I don't have dreams," she said, sipping the expensive red wine he'd ordered. "I have bills." "No," he pushed gently. Before him, before your mother got sick, what did you want to be?" She looked down at her glass. She hadn't said the word out loud in years. "An artist. I used to paint. Portraits, mostly." His eyes lit up. "My sister, Angelina. She painted terrible, bright, messy canvases. Flowers. She loved flowers. I'm sorry," Lena said. "I told you," he said, his voice low. "So you would understand me, not so you would be sorry." He leaned forward. "This trust, it's a hard thing for people like us. For me, because of what I am. For you, because of what was done to you. How can I trust you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You run. All of this. You trust my actions," he said, covering her hand on the table. His skin was warm. "I told you I would stop him. I did. I told you this was just dinner. It is. I am exactly what I say I am, Lena. That's the one thing I'm not like him. I don't lie." His thumb stroked the back of her hand. A shiver went through her. After dinner, a slow song started playing, a string trio in the corner. He stood and offered her his hand. "Dance with me." "Oh, no, I can't." "Yes, you can," he said. "Just one dance." She let him lead her to the small, polished floor. He put one hand on the small of her back, his other hand taking hers. The contact was electric. She put her free hand on his shoulder, the wool of his suit fine and warm beneath her palm. They moved slowly. He was a good dancer, leading her with an easy, confident strength. It was not like Travis, who would grip her too hard, pulling her off balance. Dom's hand on her back was a guide, not a grip, a support. She could smell his scent, clean, like soap, and a faint, spicy smell of bergamot. She found herself relaxing into his frame, resting her head just for a second against his chest. She could feel his heart, a steady, strong beat beneath her ear. When the song ended, he didn't let her go immediately. He just held her, his hand in her hair, his eyes closed. He drove her home in his Mercedes, the silence comfortable. He walked her to her door, to the new, solid lock he had installed. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "Thank you for coming," he said. He was standing close, too close. The narrow hallway was charged with their presence. He stopped her, just as she was putting the key in the lock, not with his hand, but with his voice. "Lena." She turned. He stepped in, backing her gently against the solid wood of her own door. His hands came up, not to touch her, but to brace himself on the door. On either side of her head, he was caging her, but he wasn't touching her. He was giving her every chance to bolt. "That dress," he said, his voice a low, rough growl. "You are killing me in that dress." Their breath mingled, pluming in the cool air of the hallway. She was trembling, her entire body a live wire. She was terrified. She was fascinated. "Dom?" she whispered, her voice shaky. "I know," he said. He leaned his forehead against hers. His eyes closed. I know. He smelled of wine and resolve. Just stay still for a second. He stayed there, just breathing her in, for a small eternity. Then he pulled back, just enough to see her eyes. Tell me to stop, he whispered. She stared at him, at his dark, intense eyes, at his mouth, so close to hers. She should say it. Stop. Go. This is insane. She said nothing. He took that as his answer. He leaned in. Slowly, his gaze dropping to her lips. The kiss was not a collision. It was a discovery. It was impossibly gentle. At first, his lips just brushed hers, a question. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. He came back, this time with more purpose. He kissed her, slow, deep, and unhurried. It was not a kiss of passion, not yet. It was a kiss of possession, of inevitability. His mouth was warm, firm, and he tasted of red wine and a darkness she couldn't name. He kissed her as if he had all the time in the world, as if he were memorizing the shape of her. A small, broken sound escaped her throat. Her hands, which had been pressed flat against her sides, came up, gripping the lapels of his suit jacket. She wasn't pushing him away. She was holding on. He felt the shift. He deepened the kiss, his mouth slanting over hers, and she opened for him. A silent, shocked gasp, and just as it was about to change, to become something she couldn't take back, he pulled away. He rested his forehead against hers again, his breathing heavy. "Let's go," he said, his voice thick. "What? I'm taking you to my place." It wasn't a question, it was a statement, and she just nodded, her lips still tingling. His penthouse was on the 60th floor, a palace of glass and steel. The city was a carpet of glittering lights below them. It was beautiful, cold and vast. He made them a drink, his hands not quite steady. He didn't touch her. He just handed her a glass of water and sat on the sofa. A few feet away, she was so wound up. She thought she might break. "Why did you bring me here?" "I wanted you to see," he said, looking at the city, not at her. "This is what I am, not just the social club or the diner or the man who kissed you in the hallway. It's quiet. It's empty. It's all I have." He turned to her, his eyes full of a raw, naked need that terrified her. He moved, sitting next to her. He touched her hair, his fingers tracing the line of her jaw. "You are the first thing that has felt real in this place. Ever," he whispered. He leaned in to kiss her again, and this time, there was no question. This was hunger. This was a man who had been starving. She felt the change, the demand, the control. "Dom, wait," she said, her hands flying to his chest, pushing him. "Please, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't." He froze, instantly. The hunger in his eyes vanished, replaced by a flash of self-loathing. He pulled back so fast he almost fell off the sofa. "Santo Dio," he whispered, running a hand over his face. "Lena, I'm sorry." He stood, walking to the wall of glass, his back to her. "I told you I wasn't him." "You're not," she said, her voice shaking. You stopped." He turned, his face tight with a restraint that looked painful. "I'll take you home." "No, I'm not ready for this." He nodded, a sharp, jerky movement. "I know. I'm sorry. He let out a harsh breath. "When you're ready, I'll still want you. I promise you that." The silence stretched, thick and awkward. "I'm not dating anyone else," he said, his voice low. "I haven't been interested. I just want you to know, this isn't a game." "I'm not ready for more," she whispered, pulling her arms around herself. "I'm not. I know." He walked to a chair, grabbed his suit jacket, and walked over to her. She was still in the thin red dress. He draped the jacket over her shoulders. It was heavy, exquisitely tailored, and warm from his body heat. It smelled like him. "Keep it," he said. "It's cold. I'll have the car bring you home." He didn't take her home himself. He wouldn't trust himself. He called Santo. The next day, she started at Cafe Doro. It was everything he'd said. Bright, clean, and busy. The other baristas were sharp, professional, and eyed her with suspicion. until she started working. She moved with a speed and grace they hadn't expected. Her latte art was flawless. She tweaked the grinder, and suddenly, their house blend tasted 10% better. By the end of her first shift, the manager, Sophia, a severe-looking woman with a sharp bun, gave her a curt nod. "The boss said you were good." Sophia said, "He didn't say how good. You're on beans tomorrow. Don't mess it up." Lena smiled, a real, genuine smile. For 2 weeks, she worked. She threw herself into the cafe, reorganizing the pastry display, creating a new origin menu, and teaching the junior baristas how to properly steam milk. She was good at this. She was thriving. Dom never came. He never called. He kept his promise. She'd go home, wrapped in his jacket, which she told herself she kept only because it was warm. Her mother was getting stronger. The apartment was safe. She was happy. On a Tuesday, after a long 10-hour shift, she came home to a package. It was a small, brown paper-wrapped box, sitting on the doormat in front of her high-security door. No postage, no return address, just her name, written in neat, block capitals. She took it inside, her heart suddenly cold. She set it on her kitchen table. She opened it. Inside, nestled on black tissue paper, was a broken espresso cup, the cheap ceramic kind from Cafe Luna. Beneath it was a photograph. Her blood turned to ice. It was her and Dom. In the restaurant parking lot, just before he kissed her. It was grainy, taken from a distance. Someone had taken a thick red marker the color of blood and drawn a vicious line across both of their throats. Her phone rang, shattering the silence. She fumbled for it, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. The caller ID said unknown. She answered. "Don't go to work tomorrow," Dominic Moretti's voice said. It was dead calm. How did you know?" she whispered, staring at the violent, red line. There was a pause, and she heard him take a long, slow breath. "Because I got one, too." His voice on the phone was not the one she knew. It was not the man who had kissed her, or the boss who had offered her a job. This was a different person, a voice stripped of all emotion, leaving only a flat, cold, and absolute authority. "Don't go to work tomorrow," he said. How did you know?" she whispered, her hand still clutching the photograph, the red line like a fresh wound. "I got one, too. A picture of my car, parked outside Cafe Doro, with a broken mug on the hood." He did not pause, did not wait for her to react. "I'm sending a car. It will be there in 10 minutes. Pack a bag, for you and your mother." "A bag? Dom, what are you talking about? I can't just—" "This is not a discussion, Lena. They were at your door. They were at my cafe. The game has changed. 10 minutes. The line went dead. She was still standing there, frozen, when her mother coughed from the doorway. "Lena, honey, who was that? You look like you've seen a ghost." Lena couldn't hide it. She held up the photograph. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening. She was a frail woman, but she was not stupid. She had lived a long, hard life, and she recognized true danger when she saw it. "Go," Sarah said, her voice suddenly strong. "Pack your medicines, baby, and your good shoes. Do what the man says." "Mama, no, this is his world. This is his fight. He's dragging us into it. I'm not going to be his prisoner." "Prisoner?" Sarah let out a dry, harsh laugh. "We've been prisoners. Lena, prisoners to the bank, to the pharmacy, to that animal, Travis. We've been prisoners to this broken lock for a year. If this man is offering protection, you take it. You take it, and you say thank you. Now go." Lena was trapped. Her own mother, the woman she was trying to protect, was siding with him, with the man who had brought this darkness to their doorstep. 8 minutes later, a heavy knock echoed through the apartment, rattling the new, solid steel door. It wasn't a tentative knock. It was an announcement. Lena opened it. Dom stood there. Not Santo. Dom himself. He was in a dark t-shirt and jeans, not a suit. He looked casual, and yet more dangerous than she had ever seen him. His eyes were black, and they swept the apartment, past her, to her mother. Mrs. Carver, he said, his voice polite, respectful. I'm Dominic. I'm moving you and Lena to a safe place. This apartment is no longer secure. Thank you, young man, Sarah said, clutching her small suitcase. Lena, your bag, Dom said, not looking at her. I'm not a piece of your property, Dominic, she hissed, her voice low. You can't just order me around. He finally turned his gaze on her. The cold fury in his eyes made her take an involuntary step back. You are correct, he said, his voice quiet, lethal. You are not. But your picture is in some scumbag's hand, the same scumbag who had the balls to leave this at your door. He pointed to the box on the table. They think you're my weakness. And they are going to find out very, very soon what happens when they touch what's mine. Now, get your bag. We are leaving. He was not asking. The ride was silent. They were in the back of a black armored SUV, not the Mercedes. Santo was driving. Another man, built like a refrigerator, sat in the passenger seat. Lena sat between Dom and her mother, a small, furious, terrified ball. They didn't go to his penthouse. They drove to a different part of the city, a modern, gleaming glass tower. Dom led them through a private underground garage into a secure elevator that required his thumbprint. The condo was vast. It was 3,000 square feet of white marble, black leather and floor-to-ceiling windows. It was beautiful, sterile, and utterly soulless. It was the most luxurious prison she had ever seen. You'll be safe here, Dom said, dropping their bags by the door. There are guards in the lobby, one in the elevator bay, and 2 on this floor. No one comes in or out without my code. The kitchen is stocked. The television has every channel. You don't leave for any reason. Sarah, overwhelmed, went to look out the window, her hand on the glass. It's like being in the sky. Lena rounded on Dom the second her mother was out of earshot. So this is it? This is my life now? I'm just a pawn? A thing you hide in a box to keep your enemies from taking it? Her voice was shaking, thick with tears of rage and guilt. This is your fault. I was fine. I was surviving. And you put a target on me, just because you like my coffee. He flinched. The word pawn hit him harder than she'd expected. He looked at her, and the anger was gone, replaced by a deep, weary pain. I know, he said, his voice rough. I know, I've been so stupid, Lena. I was so angry about Travis. I wasn't thinking. I was a man with a hammer, and he was a nail. I didn't think about who was watching me. The Albanians, the Irish, they've been looking for a way to get at me for a year, and I walked into your cafe, and I handed them you. He stepped closer, and he looked broken. You are not a pawn, Lena. You're the one who makes me fix my coffee. He tried a small, sad smile. You're not a weakness. You're the one thing I've done right in a long time, and I messed it up. I'm sorry. He reached into his pocket, not for money, not for a phone. He pulled out something small, on a delicate, tarnished silver chain. It was an old-fashioned rosary, the beads made of dark, polished wood, the crucifix simple and worn. This was my grandmother's, he said, his voice barely a whisper. She gave it to my mother. My mother. She tried to give it to Angelina, but Angelina didn't believe in it. She said she didn't need it. He didn't have to finish the story. He pressed the rosary into Lena's hand. Her fingers closed around the cool, smooth beads. It's for protection, he said, from the evil eye. My Nona swore by it. It's a piece of my family. I want you to have it, so you know. So you know you're not just some pawn to me. You're under my protection. That's different. It has to be. Lena looked at the worn beads, then at his dark, tormented eyes. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man with a terrible, dangerous life, who was trying, in his own broken, controlling way, to do the right thing. Okay, she whispered, her fingers tightening around the rosary. Okay. The days that followed were a strange, surreal dream. Dom stayed. He couldn't go to his office, couldn't go to the penthouse. He was trapped, too. He worked from a high-tech office in one of the spare bedrooms, taking hushed, angry calls, his voice a low, threatening rumble. Lena and her mother lived in the luxurious silence. Sarah seemed to get better, stronger, in the clean, temperature-controlled air. She sat by the window, reading novels, her breathing easier than it had been in years. Lena was restless. She was a bird in a gilded cage. She cleaned the already spotless condo. She organized the high-end kitchen. And finally, she cooked. She found herself in the massive, gleaming kitchen, needing something to do with her hands. She made a simple pomodoro sauce, from scratch, with the San Marzano tomatoes she found in the pantry. The smell of garlic and basil filled the sterile apartment. Dom emerged from his office around 7, his face tight with stress. He stopped, sniffing the air. He looked surprised. I made pasta, Lena said, her face flushing. I was bored. He didn't speak. He just sat at the massive kitchen island, undid his cuffs, and watched her. She served him a bowl. He took one bite. He closed his eyes. My mother, he said, his voice thick. She used to make a sauce, just like this, before she got sick. He ate the entire bowl, and for the first time, they talked. Not as a boss and a waitress, not as a monster and a victim, just as two people. Trapped in a glass tower, eating pasta, a new routine formed. He would work, she would read, or talk to her mother. In the evenings, they would cook, together. He taught her how to make his grandmother's braciole. She taught him how to make a perfect airy zabaglione. They'd sit on the massive sofa, not talking, just reading. He read financial reports in thick, leather-bound books. She read the novels her mother passed on to her. The silence was not empty. It was full. It was comfortable. She was seeing the man, not the mafia boss. She saw the man who was unfailingly gentle with her mother, the man who listened, truly listened when she talked, the man who rubbed the space between his eyebrows when he was stressed, who drank his coffee, which she made for him perfectly, every morning with exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar. The walls were breaking down, not with a crash, but in a slow, quiet erosion. One night, about a week into their confinement, Lena fell asleep on the sofa, her book on her chest. She woke with a gasp. A scream caught in her throat. No, get off. Travis, don't. She was thrashing, her hands up, her eyes squeezed shut, back in that dark alley, back under his weight, the smell of whiskey and rage in her nose. Lena, a firm grip on her shoulders. Lena, wake up. It's me. It's Dom. You're safe. She snapped awake, her chest heaving, her face slick with sweat and tears. She was in the condo. Dom was kneeling in front of her, his hands on her shoulders, his face a mask of concern. She sobbed, her body shaking with the phantom terror. I thought... Shh, he said, his voice a low, soothing rumble. It was a dream. He's not here. He will never, ever be here. I'm here. You're safe. He didn't just say it. He was it. He was the man who had installed the lock. He was the man who had given her his grandmother's rosary. He was the solid, unmovable object between her and the world. He pulled her off the sofa, into his arms. He didn't try to kiss her. He didn't make a move. He just held her. He held her, his hand stroking her hair, his body a solid, warm wall. He just held her and let her shake. Her sobs slowly quieted. Her trembling eased. She was tucked against his chest, her face buried in his t-shirt. It smelled like him, like clean soap and coffee. She could feel his heart, a slow, steady, powerful beat beneath her cheek. It was the safest sound she had ever heard. She pulled her head back, just enough to see his face. His eyes were dark, filled with a pain that mirrored her own. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice still thick. He looked at her tear-streaked face, her kiss-swollen lips from where she'd been biting them in her sleep. He raised a hand, his thumb gently, so gently. Brushing a tear from her cheek, he leaned in and kissed her forehead, a soft, reverent, and utterly safe kiss. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." He started to pull away, to give her space, to go back to being the man who kept his distance. "Don't," she whispered. Her hands, which had been clutching his shirt, tightened. He froze. Lena? She didn't want to be safe, not right now. She wanted this. She wanted him. She pulled him closer and she kissed him. It was not a gentle kiss. It was a kiss of desperation, of hunger, of a woman who had been starved of safe, kind touch for so long. She was drowning in it. It was salty and messy and real. He responded instantly, his arms tightening around her, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. His mouth slanted over hers, taking, claiming, devouring, but the second she made a small, choked sound, he gentled. He pulled back, his forehead resting against hers, his breathing ragged. "Lena, Dio, are you sure?" She didn't speak. She just looked at him, her eyes clear for the first time. This was not fear. This was not manipulation. This was her choice. She nodded. He kissed her again. And this time, it was different. It was not a kiss. It was a vow. He lifted her into his arms and she wrapped her legs around his waist, her hands in his hair. He carried her from the living room, past her mother's closed door, and into his bedroom. He laid her on the massive bed, the city lights a glittering carpet behind him. He didn't tear at her clothes. He undressed her. Slowly, reverently. His hands, which she knew could be so violent, were shaking. His fingers fumbled with the buttons on her pajama shirt. She helped him. Her own hands, trembling, went to the hem of his t-shirt, pulling it over his head. His body was beautiful, scarred but beautiful. Taut muscle, dark hair, a map of a life she didn't know. He looked at her small, pale body, at the old, faded bruise-like mark on her ribs, a ghost from Travis. His eyes darkened, but he didn't ask. He just leaned down, and he kissed it, a soft, healing kiss. "You are bellissima," he whispered against her skin. It was slow. It was emotional. It was amending. Every touch was a question, and every breath was an answer. When he finally made them one, she cried out, not in pain, but in release. In recognition, he froze. Did I hurt you?" "No," she sobbed, clutching him. "No, it's just I know," he whispered, his own voice thick. "I know. Me too." He moved, slowly, teaching her a new rhythm, a rhythm of trust and of care. It was not the fast, selfish, violent act she had only ever known. It was a prayer. It was two broken, lonely people, finding a way to be whole, just for a few minutes. After, they lay tangled in the sheets, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. He was on his back, her head on his chest, his hand idly stroking her hair. She was quiet, too quiet. "What's wrong?" he whispered. She was trembling. "I'm scared," she whispered. He kissed her hair. "You're safe. I'm here. It was just a—" "No," she said, lifting her head. I'm not scared of him. I'm scared, of this, of feeling this. It's too much." He looked at her, and his eyes were so soft, so full of a raw, naked vulnerability. It took her breath away. He gently tucked her hair behind her ear. "Then I'll wait again tomorrow," he whispered, his voice rough. "And the next day, and the day after that, until you're not scared anymore." He kissed her, softly, then pulled her head back down to his chest. "Sleep," he said. "I'll be right here." Their connection deepened. It was inevitable. They lived in a bubble, just the three of them. Lena saw him, the real him. She saw his loyalty, a fierce, unwavering thing. She saw his protectiveness, which she now understood was not about control, but about a deep, abiding fear of loss, born from his sister's death. And she saw his broken parts, the anger, the loneliness, the crushing weight of his life. She found herself falling in love with all of them. The bubble was bound to burst. It happened 2 weeks after they'd moved in. Dom was in his office, on a secure line. He'd been getting tense. The last 48 hours. He'd been back to the man of cold, hard authority. Lena was bringing him a coffee. The door was just slightly ajar. She heard Santo's voice, on speakerphone. The intel is solid. Travis Miller, he never left the city. Lena froze, her hand on the door. He's teamed up with the Albanians. He's desperate, Santo said. He's offering them information on your operations, your shipping routes, your storage. What does he want in exchange? Dom's voice was polar ice. There was a pause. Money, Santo said, and revenge. He wants Lena. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. Find him, Dom said. This is over. I want him. I want him handled, the Mafia way. No loose ends. You got it, boss. He's a dead man. Lena's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. A dead man. She pushed the door open, the coffee cup rattling on its saucer. Dom snapped his head up, his face a mask of cold, lethal fury. Lena, get out. No, she said, her voice shaking. She set the coffee on his desk. I heard you. You're going to kill him. This is not your concern, Lena, Dom said, standing. This is business. Business. He's offering me. He's doing this because of me. You can't kill him. Not for me. Please, don't do that. Don't become a murderer because of me. He looked at her, and his cold expression shattered, replaced by a terrible, raw anger. He slammed his fist on the desk, making the cup jump. Don't you get it? He yelled. Don't you understand what I am? I am already a murderer. Lena, you think I just ask people nicely? This is my life. This is the blood I was born into. He strode over to her, grabbing her by the arms. His grip was not gentle, but it wasn't painful. It was desperate. You are the one good thing, the one clean thing in my entire filthy life. And he thinks he can use you? He thinks he can put a price on you? He let out a harsh, broken laugh. I already have blood on my hands, he whispered, his forehead pressing against hers, his eyes blazing into hers. So much of it, a little more. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change what I am. He softened his grip, his hands sliding up to cup her face. But if it keeps you breathing, he said, his voice a raw, terrifying promise, if it keeps you safe, I will burn the entire city to the ground, and I will smile while I do it. You have to kill him, boss. Santo's voice was flat. He and Dom were in the condo's office, the door closed. Lena, in the kitchen, was pretending to read, but her entire body was a listening device. Her mother was napping. He's a cancer, another voice said. Polly, one of Dom's lieutenants. He's talking to the Albanians. He's got your name in his mouth. You can't let that walk around. It's bad for business. It makes you look weak. There was a heavy silence. Lena could picture Dom at the window, his back to them. She asked me not to, Dom said. His voice was quiet, a sound of disbelief. She, the waitress, boss, with all due respect, you're going to let a piece of tail stop you from handling a threat? This is the guy who put his hands on her. He's a rabid dog. You don't contain a rabid dog. You put it down. He's not to be touched, Dom said. The words were final. He's to be found. He's to be brought to me. I will handle it. Do you understand? Boss, do you understand me? Santo. Yeah, boss, Santo said, his voice tight with disapproval. I understand. The door opened. Santo and Polly walked out, their faces grim. They saw Lena on the sofa, her book open, and their expressions hardened. They looked at her like she was the problem, like she was the poison. Lena felt a cold, sharp guilt that was worse than any fear. They were right. She was the weakness. She had asked him to spare a man who was now, actively, trying to destroy him. She had, in her plea for his soul, endangered his life. She waited until Dom was alone in the office, his head in his hands. Before she slipped into her room, she grabbed her phone, the one he'd given her, the clean one. She had to fix this. She had no way to find Travis, but she knew. She knew he would find her. He always did. She went into the contacts and found a number she had memorized, a number from a lifetime ago, a girl from her old neighborhood who always knew where to find trouble. She sent a single text. "I need to find Travis Miller. It's an emergency." The reply came 3 hours later. "He's looking for you, too. He's paranoid. Thinks someone is hunting him. Says he needs money. He's hiding at the old train yard. Don't go. He's not right." Lena, but she had to go. She couldn't let Dom kill for her, and she couldn't let Travis ruin him. She waited. Her opportunity came the next afternoon. Dom had to leave, a meeting with a consortium of union leaders, one he couldn't miss. He took Santo and Polly. He left 2 other men, babysitters, outside her condo door. "You'll be fine," he'd said, kissing her hard before he left. "I'll be back by 6. Do not, for any reason, open this door." The second he was gone, she put her plan into action. She found her mother. "Mama, I need you to help me. I need you to fake. I need you to have a breathing attack. A bad one." "Lena, what on... There's no time. Please, it's the only way. To save him." Her mother, seeing the desperate, flinty-eyed resolve in her daughter, nodded. 10 minutes later, Lena burst from the condo, screaming, "Help, my mother, she can't breathe, she's blue." The 2 guards, big, burly men named Frankie and Vinny, burst into the apartment, their hands going to their phones, one checking on her mother, the other calling for Dom's private doctor. In the chaos, Lena slipped out the door and sprinted, barefoot, to the emergency stairs. She ran down 30 flights, her lungs burning, and burst onto the street. She didn't have $1. She didn't have her shoes. She just ran, flagging down a cab, her voice hysterical. "Please," she begged the driver. My brother. He's at the old train yard. He's going to hurt himself. I have to stop him. I'll pay you. I swear, I don't have my wallet." The cabbie, seeing the raw terror in her eyes, just nodded. It was a trap. Of course it was a trap. The second her feet hit the gravel of the abandoned yard, 2 men grabbed her. They were not Travis. They were Albanians. Big, pale, and dead-eyed. "He said you would come," one of them said, his accent thick. He grabbed her by the hair, dragging her toward a rusted, abandoned factory. "You are very, very stupid girl." They threw her onto the concrete floor of a vast, empty room. The air smelled of rust, oil, and the nearby river. "Lena, baby," a voice slurred. Travis stepped out of the shadows. He was thin, his skin a pasty, sickly gray, his eyes wide and paranoid. He was high. "You came," he said, laughing. "I knew you'd come. You always had to save everyone, didn't you? Let me go." "Travis," she said, scrambling backward. "What is this?" "This?" He gestured around the empty room. This is a negotiation. See, your new boyfriend. He wants me dead. And these gentlemen." He pointed to the 2 Albanians. "They want him dead. But me. I just want what's mine. And I want to get paid." He pulled out a phone and started filming. "Say hi to your boyfriend, Lena," he hissed. He grabbed her by the chin, his fingers digging in. She twisted, and he slapped her. The sound echoed in the huge space, sharp and ugly. "Smile," he screamed. He held her up by her hair, her lip already split, the metallic taste of blood in her mouth. She was tied to a steel chair, the ropes rough and tight. "Here's the deal, Moretti," Travis yelled at the phone. "You want her back? You pay $500,000 cash and you take out an ad in the Gazette. You tell everyone you're a liar and that you slandered me. You apologize to me." He was insane. The video was sent. Dominic Moretti was in his car, on the way back from his meeting. When his phone chimed, it was an alert from the guards. "Mrs. Carver, medical emergency. Lena, she's gone. She ran." He slammed his fist into the dashboard, a raw animal sound of pure rage tearing from his throat. "Turn around," he roared at Santo. "Now." Then his other phone chimed, the one that wasn't clean, an unknown number. He opened the video file. He saw her. He He saw the chair. He saw the blood on her lip. He saw the dead, empty eyes of the Albanian thug in the background. He heard Travis's insane, shrill demands. Dominic Moretti did not yell. He did not curse. He went terrifyingly, preternaturally calm. The world snapped into a sharp, cold, lethal focus. "Santo," he said. His voice so quiet, Santo had to lean back. "Call Paulie. Tell him. Operation Scorched Earth. Everyone. Now." He made a second call to a number he only used for emergencies. "Sarge," he said into the phone, "it's me." "Travis Miller. Where are the Albanians keeping him? The ones from the port?" There was a pause. The man on the other end owed Dom for his son's gambling debts, a debt that could never be repaid. "The old Red Hook factory, Dom," the cop said, his voice low. "The one by the water. What's happening?" "A kidnapping," Dom said, and hung up. He turned to Santo. "The Red Hook factory. We go in heavy. I want 2 men on the roof, 2 on the south doors. We go in the front. I want a perimeter. No one gets out. Except us," Santo said. "Especially them," Dom corrected. He made one last call to his lawyer. "Anonymous tip," he said. "Kidnapping in progress. 1040 Red Hook Avenue. Travis Miller, armed and dangerous. Have them." He checked his watch. "Have them hit the lights in 10 minutes, not a second sooner." He hung up. He chambered around in the pistol he kept under his seat. "Boss," Santo said, his voice grim. This is messy." "He put his hands on her," Dom whispered, his eyes on the dark, passing buildings. "There is no messy. There is only the end." Inside the factory, Lena was shaking, not from fear, from rage. Travis was ranting, pacing, high on his own perceived power. "He's gonna pay, he's gonna beg, and then, Lena, you and me, He's going to kill you," Lena said, her voice flat. "What?" Travis stopped, his eyes narrowing. "You're an idiot, Travis. You always were. You think you're the first person to try this? You've signed your own death warrant, and you're so stupid you're filming it. You shut up," he shrieked, his confidence cracking. "He loves you. He'll pay. He'll kill you," Lena repeated, "and he won't even blink." Travis, in a blind panic, rushed at her. "You think you're so smart?" He was drinking from a whiskey bottle. He set it on a rusted-out barrel next to her chair. "You're just like him now, huh? You think you're better than me?" "I always was," she spat. He roared and slapped her again, hard. The force of it knocked her chair sideways, onto the floor. She lay there, her cheek on the concrete, the ropes digging into her wrists. Travis was breathing hard, staring at his hand. She saw it, the whiskey bottle. It had rolled when the chair fell. It was on the floor, near her feet. She was tied, but her legs were only tied at the ankles. You, Travis stammered, panicking. "What? You hit like a girl?" she taunted, her lip bleeding freely. He came at her again, to kick her. As he reared his foot back, she twisted, her legs moving, and she kicked. Not him, the bottle. It was a weak, clumsy movement, but it was enough. The bottle rolled, glass on concrete, into the shadows. "Damn you!" he screamed, and he began to kick her, in the ribs, in the legs. She curled into a ball, the chair on her back like a turtle's shell. She heard a sound, not Travis, a sound from outside, a car, no, a truck. Slam! Crash, metal tearing. Travis stopped. What was that? The 2 Albanians, who had been guarding the door, pulled their guns. "Someone's here," one yelled. The main factory doors, 2 stories tall and made of corrugated steel, exploded inward. An armored SUV, the one she'd been in, smashed through the barrier, its headlights high beams, blinding everyone. It didn't stop. It plowed directly into the 2 Albanians, sending them flying like ragdolls. The SUV slammed to a halt. The doors flew open. Santo, Paulie, and 2 other men spilled out, all in black, all carrying weapons that were not pistols. And Dominic Moretti stepped out of the driver's seat. He was in his suit. He hadn't even bothered to take off his tie. He held a simple, heavy pistol, but he wasn't using it. He just looked. He saw Travis, frozen in terror, and he saw Lena on the floor, tied to a broken chair. Her face a mask of blood. The cold, calm, controlled man was gone. "Santo," Dom said, his voice a low, terrifying growl. "Keep her safe. Don't let her watch." Santo started to move toward Lena, to cut her free. Travis, in a last pathetic act of defiance, pulled his own small gun and fired. He was shaking, and the bullet went wide, pinging off the SUV. Dom didn't even flinch. He didn't raise his own gun. He just moved. He was so fast. He crossed the 30 feet of factory floor in a blur, and he hit Travis with a closed fist, a single, brutal punch that snapped Travis's head back with a sickening crack. Travis's gun clattered to the floor. He crumpled. "Don't kill him!" Lena gasped from the floor. Dom looked at her. His eyes were not human. They were black, empty pits of rage. He unholstered his gun and threw it to Santo. "Don't let me," he said. He turned back to Travis, who was groaning, trying to crawl away. Dom grabbed him by his ankle and dragged him back, and he did not just hit him, he dismantled him. He grabbed the front of Travis's jacket and hit him 3, 4, 5 times. His fists a blur, raw-knuckled sounds that echoed in the vast space. He broke his nose. He broke his jaw. He threw Travis to the ground and stomped on his arm. A wet, sickening crack filled the air. Travis screamed, a high, thin sound. "This," Dom growled, grabbing his other arm, "is for the text." He twisted. Another crack, another scream. "And this," Dom said, his voice a hoarse whisper as he straddled Travis's chest, "is for her face." He began to hit him. His hands, his fists, became hammers. He was not a man anymore. He was a force, a judgment. He was a monster, protecting his one true thing. Santo was at Lena's side, cutting her ropes. "It's okay, Lena, he's just—" "Dominic!" Lena screamed, scrambling to her feet, her legs wobbly. He didn't hear her. He was gone. His hands were now around Travis's throat. Travis's face was a purple, bloody mess. His legs were kicking, weakly. "Dom, stop!" she cried. "You're killing him, please!" He was going to do it. He was going to murder him right in front of her. "Dominic," she screamed, her voice breaking. Don't become him, please. Don't become him. Her words, her voice. It cut through the red rage, Dom's hands, which were throttling the life out of Travis. Stop moving. He was still on top of the man, his entire body rigid, his chest heaving. He looked down at his own hands, covered in blood. He looked at the pulped, unconscious face beneath him. He looked over at Lena. She was standing there, held up by Santo, tears streaming down her bruised face, her lips split open. She was terrified. Of him. He let go. He rolled off Travis, his breath coming in great, ragged gasps. He had almost done it. He had almost become the one thing he hated. The distant wail of police sirens grew louder. Santo nodded. "Boss, time to go. The lawyers are here." Dom stood up. He walked, unsteadily. Not to the car. He walked to Lena. He ignored Santo. He ignored the police cars, whose blue and red lights were now flashing through the ruined factory doors. He walked right up to her, his hands, his suit, his entire front covered in Travis's blood. He looked at her. "Are you—" He started, his voice a hoarse whisper. Lena didn't speak. She just fell into him. She didn't care about the blood. She didn't care about the sirens. She just wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his chest, sobbing. Dom's arms came around her, holding her so tightly. He was trying to merge their bodies. He was shaking. The rage was gone, replaced by a shuddering, bone-deep terror he had never known before. The terror of almost losing her. Police officers, guns drawn, swarmed into the factory. A man in an expensive suit, Dom's lawyer, met them. "Officer," the lawyer said, his voice booming. "Thank God. My client, Mr. Moretti, got a tip about his employee being kidnapped. He found her here. This man." He pointed at the unconscious, broken form of Travis. This man, Travis Miller, a known fugitive. He attacked them. My client. He was just defending himself. Dom didn't even look. He bent down. He slid one arm under Lena's legs, the other under her back, and he lifted her. She was so light, she curled against him, her face in his neck, her small, shaking hands clutching his jacket. He carried her. He walked right past the police, right past his lawyer, right past the broken body of Travis Miller. He walked out of the factory, into the flashing lights of the real world. He didn't put her in the SUV. He just stood there, on the gravel, holding her, as the police and paramedics worked behind him. He buried his face in her hair, and he whispered, his voice so low, so broken, so full of a raw, aching truth that only she could hear it. "You came into my life with a cup of coffee, Nanny," he whispered, his eyes squeezed shut. "And now I die for you." He did not take her to the sterile, secure condo. He took her home, to the penthouse. His personal physician, a quiet older man with a discreet bag, met them in the private elevator. He examined Lena under the bright lights of the massive marble bathroom. She sat on the closed toilet lid, small and trembling, Dom's blood-caked suit jacket still draped over her shoulders. A split lip, the doctor murmured, his touch gentle. A hairline fracture on the 7th rib, and extensive, deep bruising. This is not new. He looked at her side, at the old, faded mark from Travis. Dom, who was standing in the doorway, his knuckles wrapped in a bloody towel, went rigid, his eyes closed. He had seen the old bruises, but hearing them confirmed as part of a pattern. "She will be fine," the doctor said, turning to him. "But she needs rest, and she needs to ice her ribs, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off." He handed Lena 2 small white pills. "For the pain and the inflammation, try to sleep." He left. The silence in the bathroom was deafening. "Your hands," Lena whispered. Looking at the bloody towel, Dom looked down at his raw, split knuckles. "They'll heal. Let me," she said. She stood, wincing as her ribs protested. She took the towel from him, gently. She turned on the warm water, her hands shaking, and began to clean the caked, drying blood, Travis's blood, from his skin. He just stood there, letting her. His massive, powerful hands, the hands that had just beaten a man nearly to death, were passive in her small, gentle ones. She found the first aid kit and, without a word, began to disinfect the cuts. Her touch, light. "You were terrified of me," he said, his voice a hoarse whisper. His eyes were locked on her face, on the purple, swelling bruise on her cheek. "No," she said, her voice small, as she taped a piece of gauze. "I was terrified for you. I was terrified of what you were becoming." He stared at her, not understanding. "You stopped," she whispered. "When I yelled, you stopped. Dom, he never stopped." He finally understood. He pulled her in, his bruised hands gentle, and just held his forehead to hers. The bond between them, forged in fear and blood and a shared, desperate need for peace, was stronger than any steel. Her mother was moved in the next day, along with all her medical equipment. The penthouse, once Dom's cold, empty fortress, became a strange, quiet recovery ward. Sarah, seeing Lena's bruised face and Dom's bandaged hands, asked no questions. She just started making chicken soup in the industrial-sized kitchen, her presence a small, warm hearth in the middle of the glass palace. Lena healed. The bruises faded from purple to yellow to gone. Her ribs knit. Her lip, however, had a tiny, faint scar at the corner, a permanent reminder. Dom's hands healed, too. But he was changed. The cold, ruthless edge was still there, but it was softer. When it was aimed at her, he spent his days in his office, his calls now about legalities, about lawyers, about testimony. Travis, it turned out, was facing a mountain of charges, from kidnapping to parole violation to assault. Dom's lawyers were methodically, legally, burying him. Lena, cooped up in the penthouse, found herself restless. The fear was gone, replaced by a strange domestic boredom. One afternoon, while Dom was out, Santo delivered a stack of boxes. The boss. He had your old apartment packed, Santo said, looking awkward, his hands full of a cardboard box. He said, "This one was yours." He set a large, dusty plastic tub at her feet. She knew what it was. Her hands trembled as she opened the lid. The smell of charcoal, turpentine, and old, dried linseed oil hit her. Her art supplies. She hadn't opened this box in 3 years. Not since Travis had thrown her easel across the room, smashing it, telling her she was a no-talent, delusional fool. She pulled out a sketch pad, a stick of willow charcoal. She sat on the floor in the middle of Dom's billion-dollar view, and she began to draw. She drew the skyline. She drew her mother, sleeping in the recliner. She drew Dom's face, from memory, the hard lines, the dark, intense eyes, the surprising softness of his mouth. Her hands, which had only known how to make coffee, how to defend, how to clean. They remembered. They knew. When Dom came home, he found her there, her hands and face smudged with black, a dozen perfect, breathtaking sketches scattered around her. He didn't speak. He just watched her. He saw the woman he'd first met, the exhausted, terrified waitress. And he saw the woman now, lost in her passion, her face alive, her eyes bright. He had saved this. His violence, his protection. It had given this back to her. I need paints, she whispered, not looking up, and a real canvas. The next day, the penthouse living room was transformed. An easel stood by the window. Every color of oil paint, every size of brush was laid out on a table. She painted, and as she painted, she healed. 2 weeks later, he came home early. "Pack a bag," he said. She tensed. "What? What's wrong?" He smiled, a real, easy smile. "Nothing. Pack a bag for a long weekend, and not—" He gestured into her paint-smeared sweats. "Pack. Something warm. And that red dress." He took her to a small private airstrip. They flew for an hour, landing on a strip of gravel in the middle of a massive pine-green forest. A truck was waiting. He drove them 2 miles down a dirt road to a cabin. It was not a cabin. It was a simple, beautiful, cedar and glass house sitting on the edge of a vast, still, mirror-blue lake. "Where are we?" she whispered. My quiet place," he said. "No phones, no guards, no—" He gestured to the world. "No that, just us." It was the first time they had been truly alone, without fear, without his men, without her mother. They were just a couple. They walked by the lake. He, in jeans and a dark sweater, looked young. He was still Dom, still powerful. But the lake, the silence. It stripped away the armor. He told her stories about his father, about learning to fish on this lake. He told her he was tired. "I am so tired of the noise, Lena," he said, skipping a stone across the water. "The lies, the blood, the weight of it. So put it down," she said softly. He looked at her, and his eyes were full of a terrible conflict. "You don't just put down a crown, mia cara, you. You have to find someone to pass it to." That night they cooked. He tried to make pasta, and he was terrible at it. He made a mess. He got flour on his face, and Lena laughed. It was the first full-bellied, joyous laugh she had let out in her life. The sound of it stopped him. He just stared at her. This beautiful, bruised, brilliant woman laughing at him. He pulled her into his arms, flower and all, and he kissed her. It was not the desperate, pained kiss of the penthouse. It was not the slow, discover-it kiss of the hallway. This was a kiss of pure, unadulterated joy. He made love to her in front of a massive, crackling fireplace. The entire cabin lit only by the flames and the moon. It was not about healing. It was not about fear or nightmares or protection. It was easy. It was slow. It was shared, and it was joyous. It was 2 people who had been through a war, finally finding their peace. They woke up the next morning, tangled in the sheets, the sun streaming in. He woke her up with slow, lazy kisses, and they made love again, this time with the ease of a shared morning, their bodies slow, warm, and familiar. It was normal, and normal was the most extraordinary, beautiful thing in the world. When they returned to the city, everything was the same, and yet nothing was. A week later, Lena was watching the news, her mother dozing beside her. A press conference. Dominic Moretti. She sat up. He was on the steps of City Hall, in his full suit and tie armor, surrounded by microphones. Santo, looking grim, was behind him. "Today," Dom said. His voice the deep, authoritative rumble of the boss. "The Moretti Family Foundation is making a $5 million donation." Lena blinked. "To a new citywide fund. A fund to provide safe housing, legal counsel, and relocation services for women and children fleeing domestic abuse." Lena's hand flew to her mouth. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Moretti, why? This isn't your usual charity." Dom looked directly into the camera. His eyes were not cold. They were warm. He was looking at her. It's a personal issue," he said, his voice dropping. "This city, it's built on strong people. But even the strongest, they sometimes need protection. This donation, it's in honor of a woman I know, a woman whose strength and whose refusal to stay broken taught me what real strength actually is." He didn't say her name. He didn't have to. He turned from the microphones. No further questions. Lena was weeping, silent tears streaming down her face. Her mother, who had woken up, took her hand. That is a good man, Lena," she whispered. "A good, dangerous man, but a good man." Dom began to change. The phone calls in his office, they were different. Lena, who now moved through the penthouse as if it were her own, would bring him his coffee. "Santo," she heard him say, his back to her. "The port, it's yours. You run it. All of it. The day-to-day. I have other interests." A pause. "No, I'm not retiring. You idiot. I'm delegating. You handle it. You've earned it." He was grooming him. He was grooming Santo, his most loyal, most trusted man, to take the crown. He was building an exit. That night, Lena went to her mother's room. Sarah was stronger, her breathing clear, her cheeks full of color. He's giving it up," Lena whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Or he's trying to... He's making Santo the new boss. And this is bad?" Sarah asked. "No, it's... Mama, I love him." She said it out loud. I think I have, since he fixed the lock. I was so scared. He's a scary man, baby," Sarah said, taking her hand. "But he's a man who loves you. I have seen bad men. Travis. He was just bad. This man. He is powerful, and he is using that power to protect you. There is a difference." "I know," Lena whispered. I'm going to stay. I'm going to be with him, but I told him I'll stay as long as he remembers. I'm his, but he has to protect, not control. He's learning," Sarah said, smiling. "A man that old, learning a new trick. You did that, Lena." That night, Lena was standing at the penthouse window, the same window she had stood at, terrified. Her first night. The city lights were a carpet of diamonds. She was not scared of the view anymore. She was just looking. He came up behind her. He didn't touch her. He just stood there, his warmth at her back. Do you ever miss it?" he asked, his voice low. "Miss what? Being normal? Being just Lena, the girl who makes coffee, not the girl who's in love with a mafia boss?" she finished, turning, his face. It was stripped bare. He was vulnerable. "Yeah," he whispered. "No," she said, touching his face. I'm I'm still that girl. I'm also the girl who's not scared anymore. The girl who's painting again. The girl. She smiled, a small, watery smile. The girl who's happy. He looked at her, and his eyes were wrecked. He was full of a love so deep, so profound, it was almost painful. Be mine, he whispered. It was not a question, it was a plea. Lena, be mine. Not because you're scared, not because of him. He shook his head. Not because I bought your debt, or fixed your lock. I don't want that. He took her hands. They were his scarred, healed, strong hands. Be mine, by choice. Not fear. There was no ring. There was no grand gesture. There was no bended knee. There was just him, this beautiful, broken, dangerous, wonderful man, offering her the one thing he'd never given anyone, a choice. Lena looked at him, at the man who had bought her coffee, and then bought her a new life. She didn't speak. She rose up on her toes, pulled his head down, and she kissed him, a kiss of yes, a kiss of always. She pulled back, her forehead resting on his. I already am, she whispered. It was 6 months later. Cafe Dora was gleaming. It was the most successful, most beautiful, most perfect coffee shop in the city. Lena Carver, now head of operations for all Moretti Food and Beverage. She was running a training. No, she said, her voice kind but firm. You're scalding the milk. You have to listen to it. It whispers. The new barista, a 19-year-old kid with wide, terrified eyes, nodded. Yes, Miss Carver. The bell over the door chimed. The entire cafe went silent. Dominic Moretti, in a charcoal gray suit that cost more than the kid's car, walked in. Santo, his new partner, was at his side. The cafe tensed. Dom just smiled. He walked to the counter. The new barista looked like he was about to faint. Can I help you, sir? The kid stammered. An espresso, Dom said, his eyes. Not on the kid. His eyes were on Lena. He was smiling at her. A private, intimate. I'll see you at home smile. Yes, sir, right away. The kid, his hands shaking, his face pale. He pulled the shot. He steamed. No, he burned the milk. He did everything wrong. He handed the small cup to the most powerful man in the city. Dom took the cup. He looked at Lena, a small, amused quirk on his eyebrow. He took a sip. His face frowned. That deep, thunderous. Who in the hell frown? He looked up, past the kid. He looked at Lena. Lena, who was watching from across the room, her arms crossed, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated amusement. She laughed, a bright, clear sound that filled the entire silent cafe. She shook her head, walking over. She put her hand on Dom's arm, a gesture so familiar, so possessive, that the entire staff just stared. Move, she said to the kid, gentle. Let me fix it. She took the cup, dumped it, wiped the machine, and with a series of movements so fast, so perfect, so Lena, she pulled the perfect shot, the perfect crema, the perfect aroma. She handed it to Dom. He took it. He drank it. He closed his eyes, a small, satisfied sigh. He looked at her. He didn't say, thank you. He didn't say anything. He just smiled. He watched her. This girl. The girl who had made his coffee. The girl who had become his whole world. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We hope you enjoyed the journey of Lena and Dominic. We would love to know where you are listening from. So please drop a comment and say hello. If you love stories like this, Please subscribe to Mafia Romance Stories for more content. And finally, let us know your thoughts. What was your favorite part of their story? We read every comment. Thank you for being here.